How is AI reshaping the way we work and collaborate within teams? Welcome to the penultimate episode of Season 9 on XTraw AI, where we explore this transformative question with Dan Chuparkoff, the CEO and founder of Reinvention Labs, and the author of a forthcoming book on innovation and the future of teams. So, in today's episode, Dan will share his insights on how AI is influencing the future of work, specifically focusing on its impact on team dynamics and collaboration. We'll dive into the ways AI is enabling the teams to work more efficiently, make data driven decisions, and revolutionize the traditional work processes. A brief intro about Dan. Dan Chuparkoff is one of the world's leading experts on innovation, AI, and the future of teams. He worked at Google and McKinsey, where he built, led, and reinvented the teams who built products for billions of customers. Dan knows firsthand that a constantly changing world constantly demands new ways of working. Now, he helps teams to harness the power of technology so they learn faster, collaborate faster, create autonomy faster, and create things faster and make how people can utilize the way you can make things work better. So join us as Dan sheds light on the changing landscape of work, discussing both the opportunities and challenges that AI introduces to modern workspaces. Whether you are a team leader, a professional, curious about AI, or someone just interested in the future of work and what is the impact of AI, this episode is going to be packed with valuable perspectives and forward-thinking ideas. And remember, the passion with which Dan has taken this conversation will help you unravel some of these things because we are recording this on a weekend, on a Saturday. Stay with us for a thought-provoking discussion on XTraw AI as we delve into how AI is not just changing the way we work, but potentially redefining it altogether. As always, you'll find more information at the end of the podcast. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the conversation. Welcome back to our XTraw AI podcast series on AI and machine learning applications. And today we are going to talk about the future of work with AI. And I have a guest, Mr. Dan Chuparkoff. Hi, Dan. Welcome on board.
Hi, Raghu. Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to the conversation today. There's so much going on with AI and how work is changing. It's going to be great to crack open some of that stuff and talk about it, so teams can figure out how to navigate the next 5 years.
Beautiful, beautiful. So let's kickstart with some of these. I would want to. Everybody has a backstory coming into AI. AI, or now we can call generative AI, which is the front office of the whole AI. If AI is the back office, I say generative AI is the front office, which makes everybody aware of, even the common man aware of what's happening. So what's your backstory, or what's your personal story or a professional story of how you got into AI?
Yeah, so I have been a product management leader for about 30 years now, which means I started in 1993, and at that time we were just starting to get PCs on our teams. That changed the way our teams interacted with information, and it changed the way we approached building products for our customers. Then 5 years after that, we got the internet, and that changed the way we shared information. Again, it changed the way we could access data and build products for our customers. And then 5 years after that, we got mobile, and that changed everything again. And then cloud, and then like big data and machine learning, and then remote work, and now AI. It's really just another major transformation that teams are going through. It's probably the biggest that we will have ever gone through, and it might be the biggest we will ever go through in the future. As a product manager, I was always just building analytics-focused applications for customers. Always from the very beginning, I started making grocery store analytics, and then it started to change toward like customer targeting analytics. And then when I was at McKinsey, it was healthcare analytics, and at Google, it was mobile analytics. And I just got to see how analytics evolved over the last 30 years. And AI is just one of the next transitions that analytics applications and people will go through. Does that make sense?
Yep. Beautiful, beautiful. I echo with some of the thoughts and sentiments that you have mentioned. Yeah, 30 years. Like you mentioned, I've been in this field for 30 years too, and I know we have seen a lot of changes, starting with the technology revolution to internet revolution to the cloud, mobile, and everything. Now, AI is the biggest of them.
Right.
Before we take a break and come back into the real conversation, or the real beat of today's conversation, what are the current generative AI related advancements that is keeping you up and awake?
I think I'm an extremely optimistic person. And like when I, as a product manager, when I see problems in the world, I figure out ways to solve them, you know, and so problems don't keep me up at night. They have me jumping out of bed in the morning with excitement, right? I think the things that are super interesting to me right now with respect to generative AI is our ability to harness the power of generative AI to manage information on our teams. All of us, regardless of what role we have, what industry we're in, we are managing a constant stream of emails. We're sitting in meetings maybe 7 hours a day. We have chat tools like Slack or Microsoft Teams. There's, hundreds of new chats every day, maybe.
Right.
And all of us are drowning in new information and collaboration. And AI has this management of language that is unprecedented. And that gives it the idea to take a bunch of information and summarize it quickly. And so our meetings, like the one we're having right now, right, can be transcribed. I'm using Otter to transcribe this right now so I can see the summary of it later, figure out what I said. That's really powerful. When you start connecting generative AI information summaries to our meetings at work, or to our inboxes, or to our chat streams, it will be able to give us a hierarchical view of information. So we don't have to look at messages one at a time anymore. We can look at messages in context-aware clusters, and then drill into the clusters that are interesting and important for us. And that's going to change the way we work dramatically.
Beautiful, beautiful. I completely agree and echo with your thoughts. Amazing. Let's take a break and come back and then get into our real meat of our conversation for today.
Okay. All right. That sounds great. I'll see you in a minute.
All right. Welcome back. So before we get into the conversation for today, so Dan, I would like to maybe get started with a few things about your background, right? I think you briefly explained how you are connected with AI, but maybe I'll go back to a little bit of your past, right? Like, what did you want to be when you grew up, and why, and where did you grow up? I think so that we can talk a bit of how these things have been imbibed.
Right. Yeah, that's I think a super important story for me, because when I was a kid, I wanted to be an architect. I was fascinated by the fact that architects get to drive down the street and look at the work, the result of the work that they did. So many people spend weeks and weeks and weeks working. And then there's no like tangible artifact as a result of that work. And so that seemed really frustrating to me. Like being I don't know, a doctor or some other service professional, without being able to like see the results of a year of effort, seemed frustrating to me. So I wanted to build houses so I could see the results of my work. So I started, in high school, I took some drafting classes and that was fun. And then I went to college, started studying architecture. And this is 1987. I was a freshman in college. And 1987 is also the year that AutoCAD, one of the leading architecture design software, came out with its first 3D rendering version of the software. It was revision 9.
Right.
But so the software wasn't new, but before that, it was very two-dimensional. And it also gave people the power to make renderings of buildings that were dramatically better than the previous versions. I had one CAD class on the whole curriculum of my 4 years of design school. That computer-aided design CAD class showed me that the power of this technology.
Right.
Instantly, I knew like we were not going to draw plans one plan at a time on paper anymore. This was going to completely reinvent this industry. And that was so exciting to me. I quit architecture and started studying computer science. I wanted to do that to all of the industries. I wanted to make, all of us faster at doing our job. I wanted to allow us to get into more details than we could when we were, constrained by our own manual work. And so I switched to computers and, started studying software and became a computer programmer, and the rest is history.
Beautiful, beautiful. I completely, I think coincidentally, when you brought up this aspect of AutoCAD and computer-aided design, my first company, I think in mid-90s when I was working in Bangalore back in India, I've been working on, that was my first project too. Like I was working for a firm where they were building using computer software to design some systems, finite element modeling and all they were doing for, I think NASA and BHEL in India were one of their customers.
Right.
But I know, so those were the days, like you mentioned, I was also wonderstruck and awestruck and saying that, hey, what is happening? There's so much growth that could happen when you could mimic some of these things and machines can make it better.
Right. And I think there was also something powerful about the fact that I was exactly that age at the time.
Right.
Because I know you and I are around the same age. And what that meant was, imagine if in 1987, I was already an architect that had been drawing plans with ink on Mylar for 20 years. I would have looked at this computer and saw the lines that came out of it, and they would have looked cartoonish. I would have looked at that tool and thought, I can draw designs that are way better than that. Right? I would have resisted it because I had this legacy of knowledge in my head and experience, and I was an expert. I would have had expertise. I, as a 18-year-old kid, didn't have any of that. Right. And so for me, it was just like I could learn this new ink on paper stuff, or I could learn this new computer thing. And they're both brand new to me, and I don't care which one. It seems like this other one might be more fun. And so as each of us approaches new things in our industries, like AI, try to approach it with the blank slate that the 18-year-old Dan had, right? Where you're just evaluating them, fairly, without the history that you already have in your head, because eventually it will, that legacy won't matter anymore.
I like the statement that you made, like, right? Evaluate things like a 18-year-old Dan or an 18-year-old person, because this is very important. That's what I keep telling people. Do not resist with new technology, but try to understand what and how it can help you.
Right.
So that takes me to an interesting question. I think many people might have this too, right? I think they might have asked you. People try and people die to get into Google, but you quit Google, and what was the most significant turning point in your life, and why did you do that?
Yeah, I'm very, very fortunate. I made it to Google late in my career, which meant I could be a leader there. I led some very large things with billions of customers, and that's amazing. But what I realized is, at the time, my team at Google had 150 people on it or whatever, and I could talk to that team and help them all become better at making software, better at making product decisions, better at just being leaders themselves. And that was great. And it's very fulfilling for me to take somebody who's, early in their life and shape how they become as a leader. But last year, I had also started speaking at conferences, events. I'm writing a book, which we'll talk about later. I started to realize, by staying at Google, I'm limiting my influence to those 150 people on my team. And I can shape them and they will become great people. But also, if I leave, they will still become great people, right? If I leave, I can help the whole world do those things. There's 8 billion people in the world, not 150. And so last September, I realized, I have some things that I can share with people that will make them better. And I have a responsibility to the world to get that stuff out, to help all the people that are trying to change their teams in Bangladesh or Bangalore or Miami or Seattle or Alaska. All of those teams need my help and I can help them. So I decided to try.
Beautiful. That's very passionate of you to think about it in that way. So this takes me to an interesting question. If you could back up something in life with the help of AI, and now with all this quantum computing and AI, maybe at some point of time you could travel back in time. Who knows? What would that thing be if you would want to back up something?
I think one of the things that feels like a missed opportunity is that we are having a bunch of conversations in the world all the time.
Right.
And many of those conversations happen over and over and over again because we forget exactly what we said. We have the conversation again with one new person joining. Our thoughts gradually change over time, so we talk about the same topics over and over again. I'm doing it right now. And most of the time, conversations are just lost into the air, right? The words just, we hear them, maybe we take notes. Even when we take notes, those notes are pretty low fidelity. And that seems like a lost opportunity. If I could have a transcript of every conversation I ever had, summarized, indexed, and merged over top of the other people's transcript of all their conversations, so we could see the overlap and intersection between all of our conversations, that would be pretty amazing. When you look at the internet, like all of the, Google would say the internet is all of the world's information transcribed in a library, right?
Right.
It's actually not all of the world's information. It's just the information that we wrote down. Yeah. If you imagine how much stuff do you write down and put on the internet versus how much stuff do you talk about? Yeah. It's trillions of times more information, and that would be just amazing. Now, that also leads to privacy challenges and permission management challenges that are massive. But that's the thing that is most exciting to me right now.
Right. That's a great point that you have raised, right? I think while Google, of course, rightfully claims that can index all the information that's out there, like you mentioned, there is a lot more information that we people converse or interact on a daily basis. How can you kind of index that information. That's a great thought. I think I have similar thoughts, but I think this thought is very great. I think which which uh, which gets me to the next question. What do people mostly get wrong about innovation? Because this is again some kind of an innovative thought. So maybe you're coming back with your 30, 35 year history. What do you think people get wrong about innovation?
Yeah, I think the first thing is innovation is a noun. And it's the result of stuff that you do. You produce things, and if you produce enough of those things, then you have innovation. You just like surprisingly end up with it one day. And so what that led me to the question, like, well, how do you get innovation? Like, can you innovate? What does innovate mean? And I think I came to the conclusion that innovate actually isn't a real verb. If I told you, Raghu, what are you doing today? And you said, I'm sitting at my desk innovating. I would think you were making a joke, right? I would laugh. That's kind of silly. What does that mean? Now, sometimes we use the word innovate for, I don't know, brainstorming or creativity or producing new creative products. But brainstorming and creative art and producing products are not verbs. Those are already verbs. And so what I realized is innovation is the result of things that you do.
Right.
And it's not a list of things. It's not a crazy idea from a founder in a black turtleneck. Innovation is the result of changing the way that you get things done, to changing the way you work. And, for your audio listeners, they can't see this right now, but it says reinvent on my shirt. And it says reinvent on my shirt every day. I have 18 of these shirts. Because I want to constantly remind myself and the people around me that you've got to constantly tweak the way you learn, the way you try new things, the way you share information, the way you make decisions. If you're not constantly changing the way you do those things, then innovation is not going to come out the other side. And so I think people sometimes think of innovation as something you can buy at a store, right? If I just get ChatGPT for my team, then we'll be innovative. And that's not how it works.
Beautiful. I think I agree with what you're saying. Like innovation nowadays, it has become so much widely used term and overused term that I would say we call like many projects or many teams. We say that hey, we are innovating. No, but you're right. I think no, I think innovation is something different. How do you think and get things done in a different way, or which would help this surroundings around?
Right.
Maybe this is where I would want to ask you this question. So why do people? So what kind of help that you? What's the problem you are trying to solve, and why are you the person to solve it? I know why and why do people need? I know you come with a lot of background of innovation, AI, and all, but how can you help people solve?
Right. I think fundamentally, I help people figure out how to overcome new technological transformations, right? I helped people figure out how to get on cloud. I helped people figure out data science and remote teamwork. And now AI is the thing that I will help people do. But what that means is not just explaining ChatGPT to people, which I will do. That's part of, the package that I will bring to teams. But what I really help them do is figure out how to change the way they work so that as new things come, there will be many kinds of AI tools that we have to adopt. And as those new things come, the way our organizations make decisions about those new things is going to need to evolve. As we get more and more new things, hundreds of new things, we're going to have to distribute decision-making a little bit, right? Because if all the decisions are made by, a single person at the very top of the organization, they're not going to move fast enough to keep up with a world that's, reinventing AI things every week. So I come into organizations and I help them through this AI transformation. Many people on many teams went through a digital transformation, or maybe they are still going through a digital transformation. And many people say digital transformations aren't going that well. They take too long, they're too expensive, they're frustrating. Everyone had a different understanding of what we were even trying to do.
Right.
And AI transformations are going to be like that as well, because first of all, the word digital wasn't specific enough. Digital refers to hundreds of tiny little transformations, a new mobile app, a retooled IT overhaul, new customer websites. It's a bunch of things. AI is a bunch of things too. It's incorporating chat assistants in our problem solving. It's using machine learning to take a look at our product design and evolve it on the fly. Those are things that are different. And so what I'm helping people do is to break their AI transformations down, help them figure out how to tackle one piece of the AI puzzle at a time. And then I help them, reinvent the way they learn things, the way they try things, the way they make decisions, because those are the things that really drive how fast you'll be able to adopt AI at your company.
Beautiful, beautiful. I know in some sense, I think we'll also have to unlearn a few things and also learn new things.
Right.
So, which is where I want you to. I want to go to this next question. I think what's that thing will change the most for working teams in the next 5 to 7 years? Because with all this that is happening, like you have rightfully mentioned about how we are moving from digital transformation into AI transformation, many firms out there, like you rightfully mentioned, do not completely understand about the digital transformation, the small bits and pieces, but now they are saying that they are doing AI transformation, not really understanding what they're doing.
Right,
but,
right.
But how, so which will take us to the way, how things will change in the next 5 to 7 years, working in teams, and because that's going to be impacting in a big way.
Right. So first, I was trying really hard to answer that question myself. And so I dug into teams and the way they work and the way they spend their time and what they do and what's keeping them up at night. And the most important thing that I discovered was that most teams are spending a lot of time talking to each other. We talked about that earlier in the podcast here today. There's a study from McKinsey and Company and another one from Microsoft. And both of those studies show that most knowledge workers spend 2/3 of their time every week just talking to each other in meetings and email and chat. 2/3 of your week, just in the US alone, that's about, 250 million hours of time every single day. Right? 250 million hours of time spent exchanging information with people on our teams. That's a lot of time. Now, because AI is built on language models, the thing that it's best at is managing and exchanging information, creating summaries, distributing that information to the people that need it. And so I think that because it's best at it, and because it's the thing that our teams spend the most time doing, I think that it will transform what it means to look at your inbox. I think it will transform how many meetings you have every day. We'll have new tools that are not Slack and Microsoft Teams, but something new that just helps us see the information on our teams that we need to know at the right time. If we can create just a 5% improvement in 250 million hours of time every day, that's a massive improvement of time. And we'll be able to do new things with that time. We'll be able to create better software for our customers or better products or services. We'll be able to solve harder problems faster. we'll be able to do a lot of stuff. So in the next 5 years, I think you will see dramatic changes in the way we talk to our teams.
Yeah, I think this is a great thought. This is a great question. I think you're trying to answer. Like I also go through this question a lot. I have a couple of folks that I keep talking over the weekends, and then we were pondering on some of these things that you rightfully mentioned. Because, like you said, two-thirds of the time we attend meetings for the sake of attending meetings, or we chat with people, uh, but not something. Of course, there is an outcome of that. We'll get into some form and we work. But how better you can organize that activity and make that two-thirds of the time even more better? I think that's a great question. I think that you're also trying to answer.
Yeah, let me give you a specific example of that
Maybe,
happening. Because this was one of the light bulb moments when I was at Google and I realized that, oh, information management is going to change. I was at Google and we were, in the organization that I was in, we had a VP, and that VP maybe had 1,200 people, in her organization. And every once in a while, we would have what we called an all hands meeting. So, our VP is going to make a presentation and she's going to talk about strategy, our goals, and introduce the new person we just hired that's going to lead development or whatever. Like those things happen. And that happened maybe every 6 weeks. And it's like a 90-minute meeting and there's like 1,000 of us on the call. And the first thing that happened is, it's hard to schedule 1,000 people and not have overlaps in our calendars, right? So sometimes that meeting would happen and I have a dentist appointment that day, or another meeting and we're kicking off a project or meeting a customer and I can't go. And so the first thing that happened was, that's okay, because we're going to record it, right? It's online anyway, so we'll just record it and you could play the video back later. And the second thing, that was helpful because then if I missed the meeting, I could still watch it later on my own schedule.
Right.
Second thing that happened was meeting recordings started to give us the speed control. So you could watch a 90-minute meeting in 45 minutes by changing it to double speed. That was pretty cool. That took 90 minutes and made it 45. Pretty good improvement. Then what happened was we built at Google, just like Zoom has or Microsoft Teams has, in Google Meet, there's a meeting transcriber. And so we got that before it was released to the public, but we turned the meeting transcriber on. And so now this 90-minute meeting has a summary that I can read in like a minute. Right. And then I can see, was there anything in that summary that I really need to know? Or is all that stuff I had talked about with my leaders already? Then I could just scan the summary and say like, oh, this one section is where we're talking about the new goal for the year. I need to know that for sure, but I could skip all that other stuff. And I clicked the summary and just watched 8 minutes of a 90-minute meeting. I was like, well, I'm never going to the meeting again, that's for sure, right? I'm just going to watch the summary and see the parts that I need. I realized that there's a lot of meeting spectators. Yeah. These are people that are going to the meeting because it's informational and they need to be there, and their boss will yell at them if they don't go. But they're not actually making content to share. They're not talking that much because they're newer or younger on the team. Those people are wasting their time by going to meetings, right? And so that's just one way that it's starting to scale and make more efficient the way we exchange information. But it's going to get a lot better. One more quick example, and then I'll change. Imagine you're having a really important discussion, but the main stakeholder that knows the most about that topic isn't there. Your meeting summary tool will know that, right? Your meeting summary tool is going to know there's a subject matter expert that's not in the room, and it will flag you and say, stop this discussion. The most important person isn't here. So if you keep having this, you're just going to have the conversation again. Like I could give you 25 ways that meetings are going to change.
Beautiful. I think I completely echo with your thoughts. I think even Elon Musk was mentioning, right? Like if there is a need, if there is something that you don't need to be in the meeting, if you are not contributing to something in the meeting, you don't need to be in the meeting.
Right, right, right,
You don't need to waste your time and the company's time. But
right, right,
I know this is a very hard practice
right.
for organizations, for employers, for employees, uh, to even come out of that hard practice. But now, like you mentioned, with AI and generative AI and all this innovation, the
Right.
rightful innovation, things will change, obviously have to change. If not, you will be losing out of.
Right. And so, just to make this actionable and practical for the listeners here, I'm not saying blow up all the meetings and don't
Right,
invite
right.
people, right? But what I am saying is start experimenting. And at the very least, start using a meeting transcription tool so that a person that wasn't able to attend the meeting can at least look at the notes. Right? If you just start there, you will start getting some organizational efficiency that you won't have if you don't do that. If you're using a meeting transcription tool, it's important to look at the privacy policy and understand where that data is going and what can happen to it. You might choose to not record some meetings because you're talking about a new merger that's coming up or something that's deeply proprietary. And that's okay too. Just because sometimes you won't record the meetings doesn't mean you can't ever record any meetings. And so find the right balance for your team based on your risk threshold and just start experimenting because it's going to change the way we interact as people in the next 5 years. And so do baby steps. Just try
Right.
little things at a time.
Right. And then, of course, storing something, again, there is cost associated with that. Again,
Right,
we are creating a lot of data, especially you
right, right,
mentioned.
right, right.
So I would like to now pivot our conversation and go towards your book. I know there's an upcoming book you wrote or you have completed. How do you think like AI will change the world? And maybe you want to talk about your upcoming book.
Yeah, I definitely I teased a little bit of it already in this conversation. So so we'll dial back to some of those things. So my upcoming book is still in progress. It's maybe 80% done, should come out in the fall. The book is called The Innovation Machine, and it's about transforming the way you work on teams so that you get innovation coming out the other side. Fundamentally, there are 5 things that teams do that set them apart from others in their industry. And those 5 things are learning new things continuously, trying new things in a risk-free way, sharing information without taking 80% of your week to do it,
Right.
making decisions in a more diverse and distributed way, and leveraging technology as it comes, even if you don't think of yourself as a technology organization, right? So my book walks through those 5 things, and it helps you see if you reinvent the way you do those 5 things: learn, try, share, decide, and technify. You reinvent the way you do those 5 things, you'll start moving faster as an organization. You'll start creating better products. You'll start having happier customers and happier employees. And you'll just be moving quickly and more future-proofed. The reason that's about AI is because the 5th thing I said there was technify. That means adopt new technology as it comes, even if you're not a technology organization. And right now, the thing that you should be trying to adopt as an organization is AI, even in small parts, right? 5 years from now or 7 years from now, actually, I think in the year 2030, I think this book is going to be about adopting robotics, right? We're getting amazing advances in robotic coordination and mobility, and AI will allow us to program robots to do more specific general purpose tasks. And so right now, the innovation machine is adopting AI and helping you use it to make better things for your customers. 7 years from now, the innovation machine will be helping you to adopt robotics. And 12 years from now, in 2035, there will be something else that's, is helping you make better customers for your products, helping you to have happier teams that lead your industry.
Beautiful, beautiful. So that fifth step that you're talking about, the technify, is one thing which is a constant thing. Every 5 to 10 years, maybe something new will come, and then how organizations can adapt to this new technology. Today it is AI, later on robotics, maybe quantum, maybe a lot of things will be coming, but how do you adapt yourself? I think that's a great piece of advice that you're putting in the book. So,
Right.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll just add one more thing to that. I think many people still think of technology as a product that you buy from a store, or a thing that the IT department builds and gives to you, or the industry that's based in Silicon Valley, right? Technology is a fundamental element of work now. It's not an industry or a sector or a team. It's just the new way we process information in the world, right? It's like communication. You wouldn't say, our team isn't really a communications company, so we don't really talk to each other, right? No one would say that. That's absurd. There are still a lot of teams that say, yeah, but we're not a technology company. Like, we're not building software solutions to accelerate what we bring to the world. That's false. You are a technology company, regardless of who you are. If you look at agriculture, farmers have really sophisticated tractors that are plowing their fields automatically, self-guided. Like, self-driving cars already exist. They're just plowing cornfields and harvesting soybeans, right? And they're extremely sophisticated. Mining organizations are using autonomous, vehicles to carry ore out of mines. Realtor organizations are doing remote viewing of properties. Every organization is a technology company. And so regardless of your team that you sit on, or the products that you think you sell to your customers, start figuring out, like, how many tech people do we have here? If we had an idea for making our stuff better, are we building it, or are we waiting and hoping that some startup solves that problem for us? Waiting and hoping is not a strategy.
Beautiful, beautiful. I think that's the way things get done. I think that's the most important thing, and that's what technology can drive organizations to. And technology, like you said, it's going to be embedded in every company, wherever you come from across the globe. And that is where how the technology mindset, I think the mindset of the people, the organizations has to change in such a way that, yeah, the way I use the technology should take us forward.
Right, 100%.
This gets me to the interesting question. What is again, I'm getting to a bit of the personal side of the thing, right? Like, I think, what's the best compliment you ever received?
Oh, wow. Man, this goes way back. I was at a team event with my team, probably 1993 or 94, early in my life. And somebody said, one of the questions got asked. We were having an icebreaker event, and somebody said, what is an inanimate object that describes you? And people went around and said, like, I don't know, I'm a teapot, or I'm a race car, or whatever they said. And I got to me, and I said, I have no idea. I can't think of anything. And the person sitting next to me, her name was Danielle. She said, oh, that's easy, Dan. You're a clock. And I was like, huh, what do you mean by that? And she said, first of all, you're predictable, right? You're reliable. I can depend on you, right? I know that tomorrow you will be there if I come to you and look at you, right? She said, also, when I look at you, I can see these gears are always turning inside your head. Like, you're always thinking about, like, what's next? What's the next minute? What's the next hour? And that I was like, yeah, actually, you're right. Like those are two of the things that I'm most proud of, And all of those things, that visual of gears inside my head is the reason that I called my book The Innovation Machine. Right? Because the way teams work is like a machine and there are gears, right? And this would work better if I had a picture to show you, but learning new things is one of the gears in our machine.
Right.
And trying new things and making decisions and sharing information and applying new technology. Those are the gears in our machine. They're the gears inside my head. And so I'm just visualizing what came out of that compliment, which was now like 28, 29 years ago.
No, that's an amazing piece of compliment. I think, and I agree with even with my short conversation that I have with you, the inquisitivity and the curiousness about how things are happening, how things will happen, and the way you're putting your book. I think that's a great way of thinking.
Thank you.
Now it comes to the most important question of my podcast. That's what I call the XTraw AI question, the billion dollar question, or whatever. What's your superpower?
I think people would often say that I'm the technology speaker for non-technologists. I have a way of describing some extremely complex things sometimes without overwhelming or confusing people. There's a video that I have, which I won't try to recreate here because it works better with audience participation. But there's a video that I have where I'm explaining how generative AI works using an exercise for my audience. It's the once upon a time exercise, right? And the way I describe this is, I say to my audience, I want you to tell me what the next word is. And I say, once upon a, and then the audience in synchrony says time every single time, 100% of them. But then I keep going and try to create a harder sentence. And then I start going off the rails a little bit and people are saying different things because there's no right answer. And I'll share a link with you so you can share it for the audience. But the explaining how generative AI works one at a time using the consensus opinion of the training data, it is, one of the examples of me explaining something that most people don't really understand how it works. And I can explain it in like 30 seconds and people are like, oh my God, yeah, that makes so much sense. So that's my superpower.
Beautiful, beautiful. I'm definitely going to share it when I release this episode, the audience, so that the audience can benefit with a great speaker like you. I know time flies. It's almost close to an hour. Great conversation. Any closing remarks or key takeaways that you would like to provide to the audience?
I think, first of all, thank you for having me. It's been an amazing conversation. This is super fun for me. It's like my hobby now, and that's great. And I think my final takeaway for the audience is just try to make some incremental progress every day, right? Or every week or every month, whatever timeline works for you. When I was first trying to learn the computer back in 1993, when I first tried to figure out how AutoCAD worked, I made it my practice to every morning when I got to work while I was drinking my coffee, I would just open up the software and click on one thing. And I would just spend 10 minutes clicking something new that I never tried before and trying to figure out how it worked or what it did. That was a practice that I still do today. After spending 10 minutes a day, every day for a year, I knew, 300 new things about AutoCAD that I didn't know before. And that was a massive amount of things. And if you go into ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini or whatever your favorite tool is one day and just try to ask it one new question and see how it works, that will make you dramatically more intelligent about this new technology that's coming to our teams that will change the way we work forever going forward. None of you can imagine getting through a workday without looking at your phone or your computer or looking at the cloud. And 5 years from now, none of you will be able to imagine, going through a workday without using your AI assistant to help you a little bit.
That's a great piece of advice that you have provided. I think I can definitely watch for that. And the passion with which we've had this conversation on a weekend definitely attributes to that on your busy schedule, doing it on a Saturday. Great. And I would love to have you back sometime later again on our conversation. On our podcast.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm happy to come back anytime. This is a fun thing to talk about, and it's changing constantly. So there's new stuff to talk about every week. So I will look forward to collaborating with you in the future.
Thank you. Bye-bye. So as we conclude this enlightening penultimate episode of season 9 on XTraw AI, I would first like to extend a heartfelt thank you to Mr. Dan Chuparkoff, the CEO and founder of Reinvention Labs, and author of an insightful book, which is to be released the fall of this year, 2024, on innovation and the future of teams. Dan's expertise and vision on the future of work and the role of AI in enhancing team collaboration have been truly inspirational and thought-provoking. A big thank you, of course, to all you, the audience, our dedicated audience, for your engagement and curiosity, and keep sending that important or interesting feedback out. Your participation by providing feedback makes each episode a richer and more insightful experience. As always, I'll be tagging Mr. Dan on the LinkedIn post. So if you have any questions, further questions, you can directly reach out to Mr. Dan, or alternatively, you can reach out to me, Raghu Banda, on LinkedIn, and I can put you in touch with them. You can also reach me on my other social media channels like RK Banda on Twitter or X handle, or RK Banda on Threads. You all know that you can go on to XTrawAI.com, XTrawAI.com, where you can find humongous amount of other episodes and other conversations on AI and a lot of other blogs. Looking ahead, make sure to stay glued to XTraw AI for our exciting season 9 finale featuring Robert Mayapol, co-founder of INSEAD AI, where we will delve into responsible AI as a force for good. This upcoming episode promises to cap off our powerful season, or the first video podcast season, where we had some very interesting and powerful discussions and remarkable insights. And one final thing, if you haven't yet subscribed to the XTraw AI podcast, I encourage you to do so now to ensure you don't miss out on our final and more fascinating episodes in the future. Thank you once again for joining us today, and we look forward to welcoming you all back for the grand finale of season 9 on XTraw AI. Until then, have a good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you're tuning in from. Happy predicting the future with AI technologies. This is your host, Raghu Banda, signing off. Thank you and bye-bye.